Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video thumbs up. The finest silk fabric hanging in the design room was thinner than the tension in the air at Forrester Creations. Electra Forrester rushed down the hallways, her pulse racing with an uncontrollable mixture of rage and betrayal. A few hours prior, Daphne had pulled her aside and revealed everything, including the stolen letter, the necklace that was returned without Will ever seeing the words Electra had poured her heart into, and the willful destruction of her relationship with Will Spencer. The whole split was planned by Ivy, her own aunt and the person she had trusted the most. Now that she had the crumpled letter back in her possession, Electra's hands shook as she gripped it, the ink slightly stained from tears she couldn't contain. She discovered Ivy in the main showroom, setting up a fresh assortment of accessories with that distinctive Australian grace that always made her appear so calm and above everything. However, Ivy's composed exterior was going to crumble today. "Aunt Ivy," Electra murmured, her voice breaking at first, but getting stronger with each utterance. Ivy turned slowly and said, "How could you? Daphne told me everything. You took my letter to Will. You made sure he never got it. You returned the necklace like it meant nothing.
Why?
Why would you do that to me?" Her look changed from one of mild surprise to one of protective steeliness. She crossed her arms and put down the jeweled brooch she had been holding. "Electra, darling, you need to understand. I was protecting you. Will Spencer is just like his father, charming, yes, but unreliable. I saw the way things were heading. That moment with Dylan in his place, it wasn't innocent. You deserve better. Someone stable, someone from our world. Like RJ." Electra's gaze widened in disbelief. "Protecting me? By lying? By stealing from me? I trusted you. I cried for days thinking Will didn't care, that he was moving on without a word. And all this time, it was you pulling the strings?" she said, her voice rising and reverberating off the shiny walls covered in original Forrester artwork. Workers in the vicinity stopped what they were doing, hanging on to every word while feigning not to listen. At Forrester, family conflict was seldom kept quiet for very long. The door opened once more before Ivy could reply. Will Spencer walked in, a confused and worried expression on his face. Sensing that something significant was happening, he hurried there after receiving a panicked text from Electra. He glanced at Ivy and saw the tension right away. "Electra? What's going on? You said it was urgent." Will had always been suspicious of Ivy's meddling, but he had no idea it went this far. With tears now flowing freely, Electra turned to face him. Will's jaw tightened and his hands clenched at his sides as he said, "Will, she did it. Ivy stole my letter. That's why you never responded the way I hoped. She wanted us apart so badly that she manipulated everything. The unfulfilled expectations, the abrupt separation, and the way Ivy had pushed Electra in the direction of RJ at every opportunity all came together." "Ivy," he asked in a low, menacing voice, "is this true?" Ivy remained unflinching. Rather, she raised her chin in defiance. "Yes, I took the letter. And I'd do it all over again if it meant keeping Electra safe from repeating my mistakes. Liam broke my heart when I opened up to him about still loving him. I saw the same pattern with you, Will. Spencer men don't commit. They charm and then destroy. Electra is my niece. Family comes first." The room silenced for a time. Electra moved in closer and shook her head. Will put a soft hand on Electra's shoulder and offered wordless encouragement, but his stare at Ivy was cold. "Family? This isn't family, this is control. You didn't even give us a chance to figure it out ourselves. You decided for me, like I'm some child who can't handle her own heart. You've crossed a line, Ivy. This isn't protection. This is sabotage." Dylan stood just outside the doorway as the argument intensified, listening intently to every angry word. Ivy said her name in casually, alluding to that moment with Will, and she froze. She had come to drop off some sketches for a junior designer position. Dylan felt his gut turn. She already knew too much. Dylan had addressed the older woman in private a few weeks prior after hearing Ivy admit to Daphne about stealing the letter. At the time, Ivy had acknowledged everything, portraying it as noble meddling stemming from her traumatic past with Liam Spencer. Ivy hadn't stopped there, though. She had warned Dylan that if she didn't say anything, she would lose her precarious position at Forrester Creations and in the fashion industry as a whole. Since then, Dylan had been conflicted. She really liked Will. During her difficult time of being homeless and trying to find a place, their bond had grown. Yes, there had been a kiss, but it had occurred after he and Elektra broke up, or so she believed at the time. Dylan became aware of the entire web of lies as he stood there listening. Not only had Ivy ended Will and Elektra's relationship, but she had also been manipulating Dylan, gently pushing her to pursue love for Will while poisoning Elektra against him. Elektra wasn't finished inside. And what about Dylan? You used her in this too, didn't you? Pushing her toward Will like some pawn in your game? Ivy's gaze tightened. At that point, Dylan lost control and said, Dylan is a complication. She's not one of us, Elektra. She came from nothing, literally off the streets. You think that's the future for you? I saw her with Will. It wasn't right. All three heads snapped toward her as she pulled the door open completely and entered. Enough, Ivy, Dylan murmured, sounding more composed than she actually felt. You don't get to decide who's worthy. I heard what you said to Daphne. You admitted stealing the letter because of your own baggage with Liam. And then you threatened me, said you'd ruin my career if I told anyone. Well, I'm done being scared. Will, Elektra, I knew what Ivy did, and I should have spoken up sooner. The revelation came as a shock. Will's expression went white. With a growing sense of betrayal, Elektra glanced between them and said, You knew? Dylan, why didn't you say something? Dylan gulped hard, her eyes begging for comprehension. You too? After everything, Dylan? I thought we were building something like friendship, even after the awkwardness with Will. I was afraid. Ivy made it clear she'd destroy me. I was just starting to get on my feet here at Forrester. But keeping quiet ate at me every day. I'm sorry. Truly. Will never got that letter because of her, and I let it fester because I was protecting myself. Ivy stared directly at me. Ivy finally lost her cool and said, But no more. You don't get to take me down with you. Your games end here. Beneath her harsh laughter was panic. Ivy moved forward and said, Take you down? Oh, please, Dylan. You're the one who kissed Will while he was vulnerable. You're the one who benefited from the breakup I created. If anyone's going down, it's you for inserting yourself into this family mess. Her voice lowered to a menacing whisper that only those closest could hear. I know things about your past too, girl. That mysterious phone call you've been dodging? The one with the distorted voice talking about unfinished business? I made a few calls of my own. Your secrets aren't as buried as you think. Dylan's wrath boiled. Earlier that day, she had received a menacing phone from a voice changer threatening her mother and a history from which she had fled before coming to Los Angeles. How did Ivy find out? Had she really delved that far? When Dylan saw how far Ivy could stretch, her hands began to shake. She snapped back, You're bluffing, but her tone was tinged with suspicion. Will rushed between them, his protective instincts taking over, saying, You can't keep threatening people forever. Ivy, this has gone too far. Threatening Dylan now? After manipulating Elektra and me? We're telling everyone, Steffi, Ridge, the whole family. Your time playing puppet master is over. Elektra nodded, wiping her tears away. Will's right. I loved you, Aunt Ivy. I looked up to you. But this isn't love. This is obsession with controlling my life, because you couldn't control yours. More people were aware of the debate as it spread from the showroom into the hallways. As the group moved in the direction of the executive offices, workers muttered. Steffi Forrester, always the astute leader, heard the disturbance and came out of a meeting. What on earth is happening here? She shouted, seeing at the clenched fists and crimson cheeks. Ivy attempted to regain control by justifying her actions as a protective family obligation, but the letter that Elektra was now holding served as proof. With every detail, Steffi's demeanor grew colder as she listened. Ivy, you've been a valuable designer, but this kind of interference in personal lives, especially involving my family and employees, it's unacceptable. We have enough drama without manufactured heartbreak. As the day progressed, the consequences got worse. The air between Will and Electra was packed with rediscovered possibility as they found a quiet area to converse. I never stopped caring, Will said, grasping her hand. Electra pressed back, saying, if I'd gotten that letter, things would have been different. Their hesitant but hopeful reconciliation was a spark rekindled amid the ashes of Ivy's plots. I know. And now we have a chance to start fresh, without secrets or sabotage. Meanwhile, Dylan had to face her own demons. Replaying Ivy's threat over the phone call, she sat by herself in a tiny office. Who was responsible for it? Her background loomed larger than ever, including debts from a difficult upbringing, a mother who had abandoned her, and possibly even something deeper. She had traveled to Los Angeles in search of a fresh start and had unintentionally ended up in the Forrester family's orbit thanks to goodwill and good fortune. That life felt brittle now. Dylan revealed more when Will later inquired about her and offered to help as a friend. I didn't mean to complicate things with you. That kiss, it was real in the moment, but I knew you still had feelings for Electra. Ivy just made everything messier. Will nodded in agreement. The same unknown caller called Dylan's phone again, interrupting their chat. We're all tangled in this. But you did the right thing today, speaking up. Don't let her threats win. Terrified, she glanced at it before responding on speaker, so Will could hear. Dylan was pale and scared when the distorted voice reappeared and said, Dylan, unfinished business. Your mother sends her regards. Time to pay up. Ivy got cornered by Electra again in the main battle. You said you'd do it all over again, Electra charged. For a brief moment, Ivy's eyes softened as she asked, does that mean you feel no remorse at all? The agony beneath her armor, the rejection from Liam, the fear of seeing her niece suffer similarly, was visible. Remorse? I regret hurting you, Electra. But not the intent. Spencer men bring chaos. I wanted better for you. However, as Electra turned to rebuild with Will, her justification sounded hollow. As the week went on, more discoveries were made. Ivy received an official reprimand from Steffi, who also took away some of her privileges at Forrester and threatened to fire her if she continued to meddle. When Rich heard the whole story, he shook his head disappointedly. Ivy realized her audacious actions had backfired catastrophically and withdrew to her office, alone with her thoughts. Family is supposed to lift each other up, not tear them down from the inside. Instead, it had just brought attention to Ivy's own desperation. She had intended to use Dylan as a loose end, exposing her weaknesses to silence her. Will's encouragement and even Electra's cautious olive branch gave Dylan the confidence to confront her past. After tracking down the threatening calls, she discovered that her estranged mother had really reappeared, demanding money or a reconciliation on her terms, which included dragging Dylan back into past issues. Dylan was ready to face this ghost, promising not to let it ruin her burgeoning career or connections, with the Forrester resources discreetly at her disposal through new alliances. The dynamics changed in the days that followed. Will and Electra's relationship deepened as a result of their shared experience. In the quiet times they spent together in the design studio, they sketched ideas and laughed at how ridiculous everything was. Will chuckled, no more meddling ants, and drew her in. Electra grinned, but there was still a shadow. Ivy observed from a distance, her plans in ruins. I still love her, you know, but trust has to be earned back. In a last, defiant stand, she had revealed everything to Will and Electra, acknowledging that she was also aware of Dylan's secrets and that she had investigated the young woman's past to gain leverage. Ivy had snarled, I knew she wasn't clean, during a last altercation. Her remarks only served to further alienate her. Homeless one day, designer the next, there are skeletons there. The audacious actions had repercussions as Dylan said, my past doesn't define me. Yours does. Bitter and controlling. Ivy's relationships broke down, and her job at Forrester was in jeopardy. However, redemption arcs were always there in the bold and the beautiful. Maybe Ivy would think back on what she had done, which was motivated by true love that had been perverted by her own suffering. Alternatively, the threats against Dylan can intensify, drawing everyone into a fresh mystery involving long-forgotten scandals and secret familial links. The protagonists dealt with their new circumstances as the sun sank over Los Angeles, illuminating the Forrester windows with golden light. With a cautious kiss, Elektra and Will reclaimed what had been taken. No longer ready to be a pawn, Dylan braced herself for the next call. Ivy sat by herself, contemplating whether her protection had cost her the family she was trying to protect. The drama was far from finished. There were hints of other mysteries, like Dylan's mother coming to town, or the resurgence of Ivy's own unresolved love for Liam. One daring deed could topple empires in this glitzy yet ruthless world of fashion, love, and deceit, but truth had a way of rising, brazen and beautiful in its unvarnished honesty. They were all connected by blood, romance, and competition, creating a tapestry that was impossible for one cunning person to completely unravel. Elektra poured her feelings into new patterns that talked of resiliency and second chances because she found comfort in her craft. Will stood beside her, his Spencer tenacity equal to her Forrester fervor. Collectively, they confronted the family and demanded responsibility. Once an outsider, Dylan started forging her own route, and where Ivy had failed at deception, her honesty won her respect. Ivy thought over her decisions in silence. Had she been blinded by fear, or had she truly known too much? There appeared to be a darker undertone to the calls to Dylan, which might be connected to more serious dangers within their group. The stage was set for conflicts that would put every relationship to the test as alliances were reestablished and old scars were resurrected. As the narrative of these entwined lives progressed, layers of deceit were revealed. Everyone was forced to face what they really knew and what they had chosen to ignore. After Ivy's attempt to bring Dylan down revealed her own weaknesses. Love ultimately proved to be more enduring than any storyline, despite its complexity. However, as is typical of soap operas, the next turn of events was always on the horizon, threatening to shatter the precarious harmony.